Hey everybody, Dr. Nelson here. This is a video about how to solve consecutive even integer word problems. So we're going to do a couple problems together. So we're going to take notes in the first couple pages, and then you have a chance to pause the video and try a problem on your own. And at the end you can see how you did. All right. So what do we mean by consecutive even integers? All right. Well, if you count by twos from any even integer, you obtain consecutive even integers. So for example, the numbers 8, 10, 12, okay, are certainly consecutive even integers. So when I go from 8 to 10, I'm really adding 2, right? And then when I go from 10 to 12, I'm adding 2 more. If I wanted to keep going, I'd add 2 to 12 and get 14, and then 16, and so on. The same thing applies to if we have negatives. Say if I'm at, say, negative 10, right? Well, if I add 2 to negative 10, that gives us negative 8. If I add positive 2 to negative 8, I get negative 6. If I add positive 2 to negative 6, I'll get negative 4, and this goes on forever. All right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to solve problems where they don't tell us what the integers are. We have to figure it out. All right? So let's say we're trying to figure out what the first integer is, and we don't know what it is. Okay? That means the first one, we're going to label it with a integer. We'll call it n. All right? So that's going to be some even number, some even integer. But what we know is the next even integer is going to be 2 more than that, right? Just like going from 8 to 10, I added 2. And then from 10 to 12, I added 2 more. So the next one is going to be the same number, but we're going to add 2 to it. And then this is the part that's a little bit tricky. The next number after that is going to be 4 more than the first one, right? Look, if you notice 8 and 12, right, there's a gap of 4 there. So I'm going to add 4 more to that. So it'd be n plus 4. That'll give us the third one. And then n plus 6. And it keeps on going. So n plus 8, n plus 10, and so on. All right, so this is a really important thing you got to remember for the problems we're going to solve. All right, so if you turn the page, let me show you how to do a couple of these. All right, so the question says, the sum of 2 consecutive even integers is 94, okay? What are the integers? Now, this one you could probably do in your head if you take your time, but you got to get in the habit of using algebra to solve these, all right? Algebra is a really powerful tool to solve much more advanced problems than this, all right? So we know that 2 even numbers are going to add up to 94 and that they're consecutive. But again, notice that they don't tell us the first one. So we're going to let n be the smallest even integer. So that's going to be the smallest one. And we know the next one, n plus 2, is going to be the next even integer, right? So n's the first one, and n plus 2 is the second one. And I know that together, right, they add up to 94. So based on that, I can write an equation where n plus 2 equals 94. So n is going to be the smallest integer, and n plus 2 is going to be the next one. And together they add up to 94. And now we can solve this equation, so I'm going to simplify. So it's going to be 2n plus 2 equals 94. And then I'm going to take away 2 from both sides. And we get 2n equals 92. And then finally divide both sides by 2. And I get n equals 46. All right, so this right here is a really important part because now that we know what n is, the rest is pretty simple. Because I know if n is 46, I know the next integer, which is a consecutive even, is going to be 2 more, right? So 46 plus 2 is 48. And guess what? If I add 46 and 48, I get a sum of, bingo, 94. All right, let's do one that's a little more advanced, but not much, okay? So the next one says the sum of 4 consecutive even integers is 44. Determine the smallest of the 4 integers. All right, so again, they don't tell us what the first integer is, right? So the first one is going to be n. And then the second one is going to be 2 more than that. So it's going to be n plus 2. The third integer is going to be 2 more than the first one. So it's going to be n plus 4. And then finally, the fourth one is going to be 6 more than the first one. So it's going to be n plus 6. And we know that the sum is going to equal 44. So we can now write our equation. So it's going to be n plus 2 plus n plus 4 plus n plus 6 equals 44. All right, so now we can simplify and solve. So I know on the left-hand side, the expression, we have 4n's plus, if I add the constants, 4 plus 6 is 10, plus 2 is 12. And that's going to equal 44. And then I'm going to take away 12 on both sides. And now we have 4n. It's a little messy, but you get the idea. 4n equals 32. And then divide both sides by 4, and I'll get n equals 8. All right, so that is the smallest of our 4 consecutive even integers. So now the rest is easy. Just plug it in. So n is our first one, so it's going to be 8. And then n plus 2, so 8 plus 2 is 10. And then 8 plus 4 is 12. And then 8 plus 6 is 14. But the question was, which determine the smallest of the 4 integers? So the answer for this one is 8, but it's always good to double check. So if I add up 8 and 10, that's 18. 18 plus 12 is 30. And 30 plus 14 is 44. And there it is. All right. So now you understand a little bit better how to solve consecutive even integer problems. Why don't you pause the video and try the your turn now problems. And when you're done, hit play. You can see how you did. All right. Good luck. All right, welcome back. Let's say I do this practice problem. So the question says the sum of 3 consecutive even integers is 156. What are the integers? All right, so we have 3 consecutive even. And again, they don't give us the first one. So we're going to let that one be n. And because they're consecutive even, I know the next one is going to be n plus 2 and then n plus 4. All right, and together these 3 have a sum of 156. So it's going to be n plus n plus 2 plus n plus 4 equals 156. Now I can simplify, so it's going to be 3n plus 6 equals 156. And now we can solve for n, so I'm going to take away 6 and take away 6. And we get 3n equals 150. And then finally divide both sides by 3. And we get n equals 50. All right, so that's our value of n. So if n is 50, so it's going to be 50 is the first one, the first integer. The second one, 50 plus 2 is 52. And the third is 50 plus 4 is 54. And guess what? If I add up 50 and 52 and 54, you get 156. All right, how'd you do?